Hello and welcome to
Conway's Kitchen is some finger licking. It's an easy way to cook.
What is up, y'all? Welcome to Conway's Kitchen. Today I want to make cold brew. When compared to hot coffee, cold brew has a couple benefits that I think are really nice. One, it's a lot easier on your stomach. It's a lot lower acidity, so if you're the type that you drink some hot coffee and you're immediately like, no fear, cold brew might help you out in that situation. It's a lot easier. It doesn't trigger the instant shits. The other thing I like about cold brew is that hot coffee gets cold as you drink it. Cold brew is already cold. You put some ice in it gets sort of like smoothed out, a little diluted as you drink it. So it's like there's no rush. You don't have to sit there and be like, I gotta drink my hot coffee before it's cold kind of thing. You can just kind of chill with it. And I think sort of in conjunction with that, the caffeine, your fix, if you will. Hello, Cricket. The caffeine fix, it's less, hot coffee is kind of like up and then down. Cold brew is, for me, a lot smoother, and I feel a lot more functional throughout the day, a lot less crashes. Another big benefit of cold brew is, as in its concentrate form, it'll stay good in your fridge for a couple weeks, like 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks, as long as you store it properly and you don't cut it. So it's just like a nice, quick, easy way. If you don't have time in the morning, you already have your cold brew concentrate in the fridge, and it's easy to prepare from there. It's also sort of a cheaper alternative than going to, a Starbucks or anywhere else. Roughly, it's going to cost you about, 75 cents a day if you're doing like a big cup, and that'll last you like 2-3 weeks kind of thing. So, as opposed to $3, $4, $6 a day, 75 cents a day for a really good cup of cold brew, not too bad. It's a super easy process. I ripped it off from a cafe I used to work at, and I didn't really like cold brew back in the day, but I am pretty much addicted at this point. So I want to show you how I get my daily fix. Let's check it out. Everything we need here, this is like a Toddy cold brew system. So you can buy these things together in like a little packaging, TODDY, and then it all comes together as like a little pre-packaged thing for you. They're really useful. It costs about $35 on Amazon or other websites, and this is honestly what like a lot of like cafes are using and stuff. So this is sort of almost like restaurant grade, if you will. This is sort of the filtration component, where you put all your beans and stuff. We have a little filter here. You can buy extra filters online to keep as a backup, because you only get like so many uses out of them, maybe 5 to 7, sort of depending on how it goes. A little stopper here. This glass thing comes with it. It's really nice. It sort of fits really well with the draining system, but it's also a glass, so if it breaks, there's other ways to get around it. So it comes with it. It's cool, but also sort of fairly optional. And then we just have some beans here and just a 1-cup measuring cup. Coffee bean wise, I like to try different blends and sort of see what I like. I think generally speaking, something that's going to be a lighter or medium roast, something that probably doesn't have too many citrusy notes, something that's going to be more nutty, more chocolatey, that's probably going to lead to the better, smoother, nuttier cold brew that you're looking for. Sometimes the citrusy notes can just get a little tart over time, because it is sort of that like long extraction process. Another thing with the coffee, you want to grind it coarse. If there's like a French press setting, that's probably a good setting to go for, but coarse, big size, you don't want it to be really fine or it's not going to filter properly. So coarse ground cold brew. Coarse ground coffee is what you will need for cold brew. Tongue twister. Right. First thing you want to do is you want to take the stopper and you want to put it in the bottom, and you want to make sure it's nice and secure. And the next thing you want to do is you want to take your filter here and you want to get it wet so it's soaked through. And filter's wet, and you can just put it in the bottom and then make sure it's secured in the bottom down there. And we want to take 1 cup of water and put it in the bottom. Generally speaking, for every 1 cup of coffee that you're doing, you want to do 3 cups of water. We already have 1 cup of water in as like the base, and it sort of helps with like filtration and just making it pull out smoother. So what we want to do next is just dump in 2 cups of coffee. And I'm going to use the same measuring cup, and if you are sort of science-minded out there, you might have some red flags going off because coffee has different densities, so it doesn't always weigh the same. So 1 cup of coffee isn't always 1 cup of coffee, but that's okay. You're putting basically the same amount, and it's so much that like it really is like a not really noticeable difference. So 2 cups of coffee, coarse ground in there now. So it's 1 cup water, 2 cups coffee on that, and then we're gonna do, if we're keeping the whole 3-to-1 ratio going, we need 5 more cups of water. And what we want to do with the water is stir it in a way where you're trying to cover all the grounds as much as possible. And let's see if I can do this with my right arm to give you some more visibility. It's almost like you're have a little coffee spout and you just kind of want to pour it around very gently, and that'll just help it so all the grounds get wet. So that's 2 cups. Three cups. And 6. And so, not fully covered, but you never want to stir it up. For the filter's sake and just the pouring element of it, you never want to stir this thing up. You sort of want to just build it, let it sit there for a day, and then drain it, and it drains out smoothly. It'll help the longevity of your filters. It'll also just help it just pour smoother. So never stir it up. And from here, 2 cups of coffee, 6 cups of water. Basically now you just want to let it bloom. You're just going to set a 5-minute timer, let it sit there, and it sort of aerates and oxygen. It aerates itself, and it's a helpful little step here. So just let it go for 5 minutes, and then you're basically just going to repeat the process. Bloomed, and then you just want to repeat the process. So we're going to add 2 more cups of coffee and then 6 more cups of water. You don't have to have like the base layer of water this time, so feel free to just take 2 cups of coffee. And then we'll add 6 cups of water to it. But what I want to point out is that there's actually coffee left over. Quite a bit. It's usually about a cup or a cup and a half. So this is sort of another sort of fun thing that you can do / cost saving measure is I end up freezing these little butts here, and then after 4 or 5 weeks I have a bunch of different butts of different types of coffee, and then I make like a blend from there. So it's a way to sort of just like spice it up, because I like drinking cold brew, but I don't like it to taste the exact same thing every single time. I like the variety and stuff. So something I like about this is that you always have a little bit left over at the bottom that you can then save, or you can use for other coffee means. But either way, 2 cups of coffee, 6 more cups of water. Again, you're trying to pour it in a fashion where you're covering all the beans, but you don't want to stir it around. And if we get to the end and there's still some uncovered beans, you can take a spoon and just kind of tap it down so that all the beans get covered, because again, you don't want to stir it around ever. And the way that this works out is if you forget how many cups of water you're doing, you're basically filling it to the top anyway. So as long as you got 4 cups of coffee in there, water-wise, it's hard to count to 6 sometimes. I forget. I got that goldfish brain, so I think we're at 3.
That's 3.
Alright, so 6 cups basically at the top. There's a couple spots that are still a little dry, so you can take a spoon and just kind of lightly pat it so the water sort of comes up to that layer, and then it starts to get submerged. Because you want to soak all the beans, or else you're sort of just wasting them. But again, don't stir it up. Just kind of give it a little pat, and then they'll get all moist. Alright, so once everything looks smooth and wet on top, basically you just want to put this lid on it and put it to the side for 18 to 24 hours. Cold brew takes a long time, so you got to do it in advance. 18 to 24 hours there, and then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll drain it into our toddy container here. So 18 to 24 hours later, it's okay if it's a little longer. Just take the little rubber stopper out from the bottom and then drain it into your toddy filter. And you should notice pretty immediately, it's a new filter, so it came out very strongly there. Sometimes it sort of starts as like a little drip, 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 drip. But yeah, let it fill it up, and then when you go to drink it, just cut it with some ice, a little creamer of some sort, maybe a little bit of water. And then you want to rinse the filter really well when it's done. And actually there's how to say this? With this, there's more liquid in here than fits here, so at some point you have to re-topper it, put it in a little container, and then keep draining it from there, since you are going to reach the top. So you can see it's getting pretty close there, so what you can do, it can get a little messy sometimes, but you just want to lift this thing up, stopper it again, dump a little bit out, and then you can just go back to doing it, stopper out, and clean up your mess from there. If the stream gets a little thin, you can sometimes you put a little spoon on top and kind of push down the grains from the top. Again, you don't want to stir it around or anything like that, or you can kind of just flick the sides a little bit, and sometimes that kind of helps the liquid flow through. And then coffee grounds, super good for compost, so if you compost, throw those in the compost. And then again, just rinse that filter out really good, and you can reuse it several times.